Hello and welcome. Today, we're tackling a single, very pressing question that's popped up because of some recent events. Can Iranian missiles actually threaten major European cities? A surprise long-distance launch has suddenly turned this from a theoretical what-if into a very real conversation.
So, not long ago, something happened that really put Europe on high alert. Iran reportedly fired a couple of ballistic missiles, but not at their usual neighbors. No, this time the target was the remote joint US-UK military base on Diego Garcia, way out in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Now, right off the bat, the strike itself was a failure. One missile didn't even make it, and the other got shot down. But honestly, that's not the real story here. The big headline is the distance. We're talking nearly 4,000 kilometers. That one event just completely shattered what everyone thought they knew about the reach of Iran's missile program. It really looks like it. See, for years, Tehran had made it a point to publicly say they were capping their missile range at 2,000 kilometers. That was a distance that conveniently kept most of Europe just out of reach. Well, this launch more than doubled that, and it definitely got officials to issue some stark new warnings. And the immediate conclusion from some, like Israel's military chief, was crystal clear and frankly pretty alarming. The takeaway was Iran's self-imposed range limit, it's gone. If they can get a missile all the way to Diego Garcia, then in theory, they can reach deep into the heart of Europe. This slide right here really visualizes what we're talking about. That old 2,000-kilometer limit that only really put southeastern Europe on notice. But when you start stretching that line out to 3,000 and then all the way to 4,000 kilometers, wow, suddenly almost the entire European continent is under that arc. Okay, so let's dive into the how. How are they even achieving this kind of range? To really get that, we need to take a peek at the actual hardware they have in their arsenal. For the longest time, the focus has always been on Iran's workhorse missiles, systems like the solid-fueled Sejjil and the liquid-fueled Khorramshahr. All of these have a publicly stated range of right around 2,000 kilometers. These guys are really the backbone of their military power. So how did they pull it off? Well, the answer seems to be a classic bit of engineering. There isn't some secret new super missile. Nope. Analysts are pretty much all in agreement that Iran is getting this extra range by doing something simple. They're putting a much, much lighter, and because of that, less destructive, warhead on an existing missile, like that Khorramshahr. You're basically trading explosive punch for long-distance reach. But here's where the whole story gets a lot more complicated. You see, having the raw ability to get a missile to a city is one thing, but being able to actually hit it with any kind of accuracy and do real damage, well, that's a whole different ballgame. And this is where a lot of experts are really pumping the brakes. They're quick to point out that just because a missile can travel 4,000 kilometers, that doesn't mean it can hit anything meaningful when it gets there. There are some huge technical problems to solve first. And this really gets to the core of the issue, the big difference between having a theoretical range and having a credible threat. Think about it. The farther a missile flies, the more those tiny little errors in its guidance system start to add up, making it wildly inaccurate. Then you add in the need for better heat shields, the fact that a lighter warhead does way less damage, and the threat starts to look a lot less scary. And this isn't just analysts being skeptical. We're hearing it from some Western governments, too. Officials in the UK, for instance, have come out and publicly downplayed the idea that Iran has a real, ready-to-go capability to accurately hit their capital. They're framing it as more of a potential threat than an actual one right now. And finally, we have to remember that any threat like this doesn't exist in a vacuum. I mean, Europe hasn't just been sitting around. It has spent decades building a massive shield designed to stop exactly this kind of danger. What we're looking at is a multi-layered system, specifically designed to intercept ballistic missiles coming out of the Middle East. It's this combination of ground-based interceptors, like those Aegis sites in Romania and Poland, powerful Navy ships, and more advanced national systems. In fact, this isn't some new panics idea. The main NATO missile defense system has actually been up and running for over a decade, and it was designed from day one with Iran's missile program as one of the main things it needed to worry about. However, there's a problem. As this quote from a senior EU official makes pretty clear, years of sending huge amounts of military aid to Ukraine have left some European countries with a big shortage of the very expensive interceptor missiles they need for these high-tech defensive systems. So, what you're left with are two competing stories. On one hand, you've got this really alarming assessment that a brand new strategic threat has just emerged, putting European cities right in the crosshairs. And on the other hand, you've got the reality check from technical experts who are saying, hold on, the capability is unproven, it's inaccurate, and it's limited. We've seen the new capability that was demonstrated with the Diego Garcia launch. We've heard all the expert doubts about whether it's accurate or even effective, and we've looked at the defensive shield that's supposed to stop it. So, where does all that leave us?
At the end of the day, the launch toward Diego Garcia probably doesn't mean a missile is going to hit Paris tomorrow. But what it absolutely does signal is that the old rules, they don't apply anymore. The strategic calculations for Europe have fundamentally and probably permanently changed. The question isn't just if Iran can reach Europe anymore. It's what it means now that they've shown everyone they're willing to try.